Welcome everyone to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host Sean Gannon alongside my partner Jack Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you have the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at Just Saying, no GWJS for article and video updates. And don't forget to check us out on Spotify at Just Saying Football. Get us in your ears. We want to be there, especially as we're winding down towards the end of the season.
Yeah. It is unbelievable. We are now at week 16.
God damn it.
People are getting eliminated. Playoffs are on the horizon. Fantasy playoffs are in the midst right now. Some teams that we thought were really good suck.
Not good.
Some teams we had no idea. Denver, we had no idea. And, we are just at the end of it here, getting...
We are.
It's getting to a point where we're getting into a lot of playoff scenarios we'll go into. A lot of people can be eliminated this week, and a lot of people may have a chance to stay alive.
Let's jump right into this.
Jump right into it. Yeah,
we got a team hoping to make it to the playoffs. Yeah. A team that just got eliminated from the playoffs. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Now, this is Christmas night game, everyone. After you're going to open up your presents and had some time in the snow, if there's snow where you are, whatnot, you get to enjoy some football all day. Don't forget Saturday and Sunday this week. But again, Buccaneers making their way to Arizona. First Brady season with 8 losses in his career.
Which is crazy when you play 23 seasons,
Shows you how good you are at this game. But this isn't our blowout for a reason, and that's because Arizona Cardinals are currently down to their third-string quarterback, Trace McSorley.
Yeah.
In this one, Tom Brady, they had a 17-point lead and squandered it.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got to play Trace McSorley, and Tom Brady is pissed. This guy last week, man, they had 4 turnovers in the second half.
56 yards. It's a joke.
You can't. What happened to
Unacceptable.
These guys? I'll just say this: Arizona. I mean, they have been bleeding points this year. We were talking about them in a primetime game a couple weeks ago, and no Kyler, no Colt McCoy. I feel like it's gonna just lean on James Conner and the Bucs. That's where their strength is their rushing defense. Could be just a get right game for the Bucs team. Even though they have 8 losses at this point in the season, believe it or not, people, they got a playoff chance. They are literally tied 3 ways at 6-8 for the NFC South. I'm gonna go with them straight up on the road. If Kyler was in this game or Colt McCoy, I'd feel a little more comfortable. Trace McSorley didn't like what I saw at him last week, so I'm gonna go straight up with the Bucs in the blowout.
I'm going with the Bucs as well. Tom Brady's angry. And they still have a chance to host a playoff game, so that's what they're playing for right now. Let's keep it swinging along in our blowout games. We have the Buffalo Bills making the way to Chicago to take on the Bears. Buffalo favorites by -9, 40.5 point over under here. Bills on a 5-game win streak. Bears had a really solid game against the Eagles, just not enough to get the win, and this is in our blowout category for a reason. That's because we both believe that the Bills are going to
last week it came down to a closer game than we expected in Buffalo. The weather was nicer in the beginning of the game than we expected all week leading up to it. But now, last week, man, Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns, 77 yards on the ground. This is when he gets hot. When Buffalo starts getting real cold, he gets hot.
He willed that Buffalo team to a win last week, and that's why he's an MVP candidate right now. That's why he has been the MVP candidate for the last couple of years. The team gets it. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is right over there saying, I might be able to steal that from you, Josh. Don't worry. But I am going with Buffalo. I like what we're seeing from Fields. We just got to see more out of the passing game. Sorry.
No worries. The one thing here I was going to say is just with the way that Fields has been playing, I think with Mooney out for the season, with Herbert, it's been kind of him and Montgomery running the show there. And, the Bills defense actually did a pretty good job last week, despite having to play a really tough Miami team. But I just think that the Bills they're gunning for that first seed. So
yeah,
that's how they go get it.
Let's move this along because I believe we have our only game of the week that features 2 teams that are officially eliminated from the playoffs. This is in our MAC game because you can't even put it in the blowout. The Denver Broncos making their way to L.A. to take on the Rams. Denver's favored in this one by -2. Over-under here of 36.5. This is a Christmas Day game, everyone. Latavius Murray, the only bright spot of that offense last week, 24 for 131. I'm going with the Broncos because I just think that their defense is better, but I am not tuning in to watch this game.
Yeah, it seems like Santa really needs to get all his good football in on Saturday so that he can get his job done on Sunday.
Yeah.
And he told the NFL schedule guys, he's like, Just got to make sure.
Put Denver, LA.
The ones we don't want for the Christmas games. But the one thing I think, the one thing I like here is, Denver actually kind of won last week, and LA, even though Baker had that huge 98-yard drive against the Raiders in prime time 2 Thursdays
He's no
ago.
match for Aaron Rodgers.
He was no match for Aaron Rodgers last night. And, man, I mean, it's just the running backs in this one. I mean, Latavius Murray, great week last week, 24, 130 in a TD. And then Sean's guy, Cam Akers, getting
There's not even like a
involved.
fantasy implication this unless you're me. Like, I'm starting Cam Akers maybe because I want the later
I'm
start
starting Greg
on the player.
Dulcich.
Yeah, all right. So, but like really, like
No,
this is just not a good game. So we're gonna keep this moving because we have two teams fighting for playoff chances right here and for their division. The Atlanta Falcons make their way to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Atlanta's favored in this one by -7.5 with an over/under here of 37.5. That being said, I do not think the Falcons looked very good with Ritter last week.
No, and I mean, obviously, you say the same with the Ravens and Brett Hundley, but like it's still the Ravens. It's still, a really great defense. I think that's a huge advantage on keeping this game close. I don't know. We talked about it all season. Atlanta's been great against the spread, keeping the games close, winning the games that we don't expect them to win. But man, I mean, Desmond Ritter had about 60 yards last week, and they actually almost won that game. I find it just insane. Still that Atlanta, like we talked about with the Bucs, they're in the fight. The Ravens, I have to say, there are so many scenarios it was hard to write down, but literally they could have like 3 AFC teams lose out of like 6 this week, and they just like still would make the playoffs because they have a lot of head-to-heads.
Love that.
And I think that the Ravens, they like don't even like they could win this game. But it's only because I don't really think that Ritter's got it as much. Like I love what we saw out of Al-Jalil last week, but the Ravens defense understands that they're going for that playoffs. I think it's time for them to step up. I wouldn't be shocked if Atlanta surprises, but this is a crazy spread for me. I feel weird because of the spread picking Baltimore, but their defense, I think they kept Cleveland down to 13 points last week, and they only lost because they couldn't score that many themselves.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm also going with the Ravens. I think, to me, I trust that defense a little bit more. They can create a turnover, make Ritter make a mistake. Those kinds of things that will really help set up their field position. And, Justin Tucker isn't going to miss have another 2 missed field goals or a blocked field goal and a miss like that. They get to be back at home, which is super comfortable, and they're going to get the home crowd behind them, have real fan Dan, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that all bodes well for them. Like you said, I don't think Ritter, it was kind of like the Malik Willis opening start where you're not seeing a lot from the pass game. Granted, they're dictating the game script to not do that.
Yeah.
But there's not Derrick Henry necessarily in that.
True.
And that's why I'm like, all right, I'll lean towards Baltimore, and Harbaugh's keeping it close to the chest. He's not going to confirm whether or not Lamar Jackson is playing until the last possible moment for a competitive reason.
And say, hey, it's early in the week. If we have Lamar come in and play, I mean, it's a totally different game.
We're recording this on Tuesday, I believe. So, we still got some time. A lot can change this Sunday.
It's a low line at 37, but that's just because these are the top 2. They're both tied at second with 164 rush yards, each of them a game. But like I said, the Ravens, they're only allowing 18 points a game. They got the third best. They got the third best rushing defense right now, only allowing 85. You have J.K. Dobbins going for 120 the last 2 weeks. Maybe that's just enough for them. I don't know. I don't believe Tyler Algier is going to have the week that he had last week, 139 yards on the ground.
No, neither do I. This is the third best run defense, only letting up 85 yards a game in Baltimore, which is great. But speaking of great defenses, we have the Washington Commanders making their way to San Francisco. Take on the 49ers in their number 1 ranked defense. San Francisco favored in this one by -7, over under here of 39. Purdy and Kittle, they are now officially best friends after a 2-touchdown game. They were tearing it up. They just could do nothing wrong, the 49ers. The defense was swarming. Special teams was swarming. The offense was great. I'm locking in the 49ers in this map one. Washington last week against your team. Questionable call on the goal line for Terry. He did double check.
It was Darnay Holmes. I don't know.
Terry checked with him twice. You're
talking
the game winning.
You're talking about the illegal shift. Okay,
he confirmed with the ref
too,
twice,
and I was like, okay, that is total BS. The pass interference is BS.
It ruined.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do.
But the fact is,
it is not your fault, Jack. It was a bad call by the ref. That shouldn't have happened.
I was like, good penalties. Like what happened with the pass interference call? I was like, I just said good penalty.
It worked. So what do you think, Dad? So it goes. So to me, just like it was an unlucky call.
You know how many times the Giants were on the wrong side of that call the last decade?
I think that for me though, it's just like that was such a deflating game. That loss was such a deflating game for this momentum that Washington had. And I think that now you have to go to San Francisco. You got to face the 49ers. If you remember this a few years ago, Nick Bosa and them came into Washington, pouring rain.
Yeah.
It's like a 13-3 game. It's completely disgusting. Washington at this point was still called the Redskins still.
Yeah.
And they dominated in this win in this gross, disgusting weather. I don't know, and that's what this game was making me think back to that. And just Nick Bosa is currently off to a 15.5 sack season. Could be Defensive Player of the Year. I think everything's going for the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, I mean, they have just found a way in the beginning to continue, as we talk about, the Kyle Shanahan way of just kind of scoring early and often. And they're getting it really done with CMC. I mean, he had, again, another 100-yard game. You know, he's got almost 100 receiving targets on the season. And the incredible thing, I mean, look at Purdy. Like the kid's 6-1. When it comes to touchdown interception ratio in the last 2 games, and and Kittle. I mean, like you mentioned, 4 for 93 and 2 last week. If he can repeat something like that against Washington, where their defensive line is really their strength, not as much their second level where Kittle attacks, I think it's gonna be a huge week. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as we saw them go in Tampa or what we saw them do in Seattle. This is going to be a big fight game. 2 really good coaches, different coaches.
Solid defenses.
Solid defenses. But I like the San Francisco by 7. Like, I like them that much that I think they can definitely win by like a score or 2, All
right, I like that. Let's keep this moving. Also, just do want to mention Jahan Dotson, the rookie. A lot of question marks about why Washington drafted him. Showed out last week, 4 for 105 and a touchdown. Just want to shout him out. Having a really low-key, solid season for a
61-yard catch.
Yeah, just great touchdown on that slant right down the middle. It was just great. All right,
he's scary.
He is scary. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the next few years. Let's keep us moving along with the Detroit Lions making their way to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Lions are favored again, -3 over-under here of 43.5. Lions have won 6 of their last 7.
Watch out, Vikings.
Doesn't matter. We already won the North now, baby. They had a freaking delay us a week, though. Those bastards that I do appreciate because I love you, Dan Campbell, and I think that they're going to get the win against the Panthers despite, Sam Darnold getting the start, the former number 3 overall pick, the great quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, couple of top 3 picks from literally just within the last 5 years, and now they're on their second teams. Both wearing a light blue, funny enough, and both not very successful franchises. I mean, and right now, weird enough, the Panthers, they are in that weird mix that we have to keep talking about with the NFC South. Like, they just are in position somehow for the playoffs, so we got to keep talking about them.
A few things go their way, all of a sudden, it's a Steve Wilkes-led team in the playoffs.
And we were talking about the Bucks before and the Falcons, and both of those teams could lose, and it's just like, oh, the Panthers win, holy crap, but I'm going to take Detroit straight up in this. They score. Absolutely. They have a great hit-you-in-the-face kind of defense, just what Dan Campbell wants there. I must say, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's got 89 receptions on the year, so I'm like, does he get 11 catches this week? No, could he get 100 on the year this week?
I don't think he'll get it this week. He's got to go up against J.C. Horn, but I think he's going to get close. He'll get 8.
J.C. Horn, we have not talked about 11 enough. That kid is doing great.
He'll get 11 targets.
Goff is airing it out. I mean, is this a situation you think where, now you got Trevor Hubbard back with the Panthers, so it's like Dante Foreman, you kind of do they just run it down Detroit's throat, or does Detroit just kind of do what they do and run it down their throat?
I think you got to pass because the run defense of Detroit has really stepped up the last few weeks. Against the Vikings they stepped up. Against the Jets last week they really stepped up. So I think to beat them you're going to need to get comfortable in that passing game a little bit, which is going to mean DJ Moore. We want to see you. It's tough this season between the injuries and then the quarterback changes. I'm also going with Detroit though. I think momentum's in their way, so let's keep this moving because we have another NFC South team that still has a chance to win this. And the New Orleans Saints, as they make their way to Cleveland and take on the Browns. Cleveland's favored this by -3, over-under here of 32. They're both these teams still alive after wins last week.
Yeah, and we didn't really expect these teams a couple of weeks ago. They were really kind of in some tough situations, but this is a kind of winner take all. I mean, the Browns, we were talking about the Ravens, earlier, how they have kind of a good shot to the playoffs right now. That's definitely going to hurt their chances. I think New Orleans getting that win last week against Atlanta was with Ritter there, but now you got Deshaun Watson, who's a little bit harder of an opponent. Yeah. You have Nick Chubb coming in here. You're going to have Myles Garrett coming at you, not Grady Jarrett. They are different defenses, definitely. But right now, I think that I'm going to go with New Orleans. I think Cleveland's favored, but it's over-under of 32. Yeah, it's not a typo.
They're not expecting that to be
a
high-scoring game.
Like 32 points.
They really do not expect it to be a high-scoring game, and I would agree with them. I'll
14-10?
Yeah, I'll take the under. I think.
Really?
I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game because I think it's like decent defenses and bad offenses. So it's like what a recipe for like ugliness. I'm actually going to go with Cleveland though, because I think at the end of the day, the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, those two guys can carry you to a victory if they get going, and we haven't seen that from Nick Chubb lately. So I'm expecting a big game from this one against a solid Saints defense.
I like that. Yeah. But this could go either way for me. I mean, like it's just like you said, both of these teams are still in it, but they have has to be a very most mediocre matchup. If we had a mediocre, and this is the meh game.
Yeah, that's like the official game, and then the Denver Broncos and the Rams are just the terrible game. But let's move this right along because we have a little bit of history in this next game. In the Las Vegas Raiders made their way to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Pittsburgh favored this by -3 over under here at 39. It's the 50th anniversary, the Immaculate Reception. What a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah.
We're so young.
I was going to say. I remember like it was yesterday.
It's twice our age, my friend. I
know. Well, it's incredible. I mean, back then you had the steel curtain. You had Terry Bradshaw. Now you got Kenny Pickett and you got T.J. Watt. A little bit different. But not so much in the sense. I mean, it is different in the sense that the Steelers right now are at the bottom of the division. And even though that game is, a playoff thing, the Raiders, it's kind of the same theme for them as it was 50 years ago, where you're like, hey, we just kind of have to get this win, and maybe we'll have a playoff shot. But if we don't, we are totally screwed. At least Franco Harris is like 80, so I'm sure he'll be there.
He'll probably
for
be
good
there
luck
present.
for the Raiders. But how do you feel about these teams right now? Vegas on the road, Pittsburgh, tough place to play.
I'm happy that Hunter Renfrow is back. I'm happy that Darren Waller is back, but I really just do not still trust the Raiders team. I'm super happy that they got that win last week.
I am not. More on that later.
But I don't know. There's just something about them I don't like in this game. Like it's like they're gonna have all this momentum from this, huge win that they, deserved and hadn't had all season. They caught their break, and I just feel like, they're going to be like, we caught our break, and then they're going to walk into this game, and all of a sudden they're going to kind of like expect a win. And then there's T.J. Watt and the Steelers just getting in their face. You're thinking they're going to make
Carr make like one bad mistake?
Yeah, that's what I think. It's just going to be like one of those days where it's just like, you guys win this great game last week, and then you put up this just disgusting game the following week. Like, come on. Like, that to me has like been the Raiders season.
It seems like they can do that. I mean, Adams the last 2 weeks, under 10 targets, under 5 catches, no scores over the last 2 weeks. We've been, we were trying to call Devontae Adams scores the last 2 weeks. I think it's going to be rough. I mean, at the end of the day, the Raiders are going to need to win this with Josh Jacobs. They're going to need to control the clock. Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson actually had really, really good games last week, but it may not be enough. I think, for me, I think having all those guys back now, an extra week for the Raiders, it can make them make less mistakes than we've seen, because it's been forever since we've had Renfrow and Waller in there. I feel like every week we talk about them being out.
And Waller got in the end zone last week, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, we were big Darren Waller guys. Everybody loves that.
Love the Walrus.
But I'm gonna take LA as underdogs on the road.
All right, that's fair.
You like Pittsburgh though?
I like Pittsburgh. I think it's just gonna be one of those weird cold games that goes in Pittsburgh's favor.
And then a ball just hits off a dude's shoulder into another thing.
Bounce off that chest pad, and all of a sudden there's just like.
Thank God we got extra cameras.
Yeah, I know. You gotta love that. Let's move this along because we got some good games right now. And the Seattle Seahawks make their way to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Kansas City Favored in this one by -9.5, 48.5 point over under this one. Now, the reason why this is in the good game, because I will take the Kansas City spread on that one. I think they are going to. And I think that they're going to get the dub, a big dub against the Seahawks. But part of the reason why we had this in a good game is because the Seahawks can score. You know, this is going to be like a really fun game. I'll also hit the 48.5 point over under here. I will hit that over comfortably. I can easily see both these offenses putting up 25 plus points each. You know, but it won't come from the run game because Kansas City actually has the number one run defense in the NFL.
And Frank Clark last week made a hell of a play. You see that forced fumble that went like a million miles away? He got it.
I taught him that.
He taught him that. Sean, he wouldn't have learned that without Sean when he was at the University of Washington. And I think the crazy thing is, like you're saying, the Kansas City defense, people are not talking about these guys. And if they are stepping up, Eric Reed's been a huge addition.
Nick Bolton, the second-year player.
Nick Bolton. I mean, look at him. The kid, it's unbelievable. Where he's got in 14 games, he started all 14 games. He has I think he's like 5th in the league in tackles right now.
He's killing it this year. I think that they're just playing great. Kenneth Walker's coming back from this injury. He didn't have his best game last week, so I feel like that's an area where
a little snap count situation.
Yeah, and the Seahawks rely on that run game, so it's an opportunity for Kansas City.
We were questioning on the Thursday video that like last week if he was going to play at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, he did. It wasn't the output that you were expecting from him, but it happens. 12 for 47. He still saw some carries. Just didn't get going, and that happens sometimes. But I like Kansas City in this one. But I think it's going to be really high scoring. Like this will be a really fun game on Saturday. Definitely tune into at 1 o'clock.
Oh my God, 1 o'clock. This is like one of those things. I think the way Gino and them have been playing now, Ken Walker's healthy. I kind of wish it was a little later. But this is going to be a hot game. I mean, last week, Kansas City kind of started to get the stride back that we haven't seen since they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion, where it does not matter who's in the backfield. They are going ham. I have, obviously, we have talked about Isaiah Pacheco as a big Sean, my guy. Now you got McKinnon last week, 52-1 on the ground, 70 and 1 through the air, 2-point conversion. Who is the running back one for the Chiefs right now?
I think the running back one for them is still Pacheco, right?
Yeah.
But I think that what they're doing and what a lot of teams have done is that they're finding that you can have a really nice, healthy balance of a 1-2 running back combo.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily only need to rely on one back. And, now this is when Kansas City's getting a little bit scared when their running backs are making plays. Left and right.
And it's like, you have McKinnon have 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. You have Pacheco get 80 yards on 15 carries. Then you also have Juju and Kelsey getting 10 catches each, 10 targets, 10 catches each last week, while Mahomes has 36 for 41. And
we love that.
That's crazy. He had 41 passes, he only had 5 incompletions. And we're looking at his stat sheet like, he only had 2-0 interception rate. Like, that's crazy.
Yet they barely won the game against the Texans. Know what I mean?
That's the issue, is that you can tell right there that he was playing with the Texans last week because he was just like, there's a pass out. It's complete. Is it over? This guy is just waiting to play Buffalo again.
He's waiting for that play.
But I will take Kansas City as well, spread and over, no problemo.
All right, I like that. Let's keep it moving along. We have the Cincinnati Bengals making their way to New England to take on the Patriots. Cincinnati's favoring this one by -3, over under here of 41.5. New England obviously coming off of that brutal loss when Jacoby Myers threw the ball directly to Chandler Jones. And
so
Jones ran down the
Can I say?
Go for it.
Can I?
Tell them.
So the other day I'm texting Sean. I got a nice live parlay. 3 legs. Beautiful. Plus 6-2, 2-3, baby. We're looking great. $9 down to win 600. And the cash out button's raising. It's going to 375, 415, 475. And I'm looking up and I'm like, well, as long as Ramondre, runs the ball out, we're good. And, we'll cash out before overtime. We'll call it a day. And Jacoby Myers gets a lateral, sends it throwing 30 yards backwards, which I get it. But the guy used to play quarterback, so he should know not to do that. Throws it to Chandler Jones, who runs it 40 yards back. I win no money. And you know what? That's what I'm saying. You have a nice leg parlay. Consider the cash out.
Sometimes cash out. Sometimes when you're ahead. I mean,
don't ride that ride if you don't need to.
And that's why the Bengals are going to have Jax back this week and just dominate them against against New England. I think.
Thank you for letting me vent, by the way.
No, you got it, man. I think that the Bengals are really going to have a field day against the Patriots. I really thought that last week's game was ugly. Mac Jones was 13 for 21, 112 yards. This is not what you want to see from your second-year quarterback.
Those are the Madden rage quit games.
Yeah, and the Bengals are looking great. 6 straight wins. You know what I mean? They had this massive 17-point comeback last week. This is kind of.
I'd say it was hotter than them, but Bills 5, they got 6 right now. I mean, they are, like I have been saying, Kansas City could be this shocking team that, like, after Buffalo and KC, if they have to tear each other apart, like Cincinnati does what they did last year, rides away to the Super Bowl. They got Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine playing like 50-50, which is killing Joe Mixon fantasy owners, I know. Receivers. But they're killing it. They are, and Joe Burrow is hot right now, and everyone's been talking about on Twitter, the defense is actually playing like better than the offense right now.
Really stepping up.
And Jesse Bates last week made a couple of huge plays. And I think that New England, man, we were talking about how, Jacksonville with their win, they boosted their playoff. And with the Jets, they lost. Nobody suffered more than New England. New England had a 50% playoff chance last week. Now they have a 14% playoff chance.
That's rough.
That sucks. And, oh, my God, that's terrible. And you gave the Chargers a 70% playoff chance. And there ain't that many seeds, New England. Like, Jacoby throwing that ball, not only did it hit by, it's going to have a ripple effect on the rest of their season. And maybe you get a get-right game. This is not it. The Bengals 3.5. I don't care if you're playing in Gillette. Hammer the 3.5, man. Oh, my God. They're going to – did you see what they did to Tampa last week in the second half?
Take the over on that
exactly.
one. Easily.
41, absolutely. I agree.
All right, let's move this along. We have the Houston Texans making their way to Tennessee to face the Titans. Tennessee's favored this by -5. Over under here, 37. I'm actually going with the Texans. I think that
this is why he wanted to get you. He wanted the surprise pick.
The last few games, they've just been playing better. Look, they gave Kansas City a run for their money.
Well, Dallas, ruining the Dallas.
They gave the Eagles a run for their money earlier in the season. I think that right now they're just trying to play the spoiler of people's seasons, and who better season to spoil than your division opponent who's currently in first place, whose playoff chances are kind of hanging on by a thread. And a win for Houston, they've lost 9 straight. You get a little bit of respect on your name.
Yeah.
Also, if Jacksonville gets a win on Thursday night, it shakes up the AFC
South. Oh, my God. Don't tell me we have to watch a Jacksonville.
You know what I mean?
Tennessee.
I'm just saying it's going to be, the late game season of them becomes a little bit juicier, a little bit better.
But you are right. There is a strange, weird trend of the Texans ruining somebody's season.
And then some of the Titans just haven't played great.
Yeah. No, let's be honest. I'll just say in the facts here, the Titans have not been great. Even Derrick Henry, he has had great favorable matchups. He has not been performing to the point where they can win. Texans, though, 9 straight. Geez, you do not want to have double-digit straight losses, kind of reminiscent of that old 2-14 team before they got Jadeveon Clowney type of vibes. And now, Dameon Pierce out the rest of the season. It gives me a reason, like you're saying. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I'm just going to say because I hate it. But it gives me reason to believe that you're not out of your mind picking the Texans, and I'll tell you why. Because when we have all these games where we say, this guy's injured, we're expecting this other person to get with the Texans, I have no idea. So now, maybe with Dameon out, maybe they start feeding Brandon Cooks. Maybe they start going back to Chris Moore like they did 2 weeks ago. But Tennessee,
we're getting some Jeff Driscoll actions.
Tennessee, I think I want to ride with you on the fact that the Texans aren't there. But if Tennessee can do this, there's the other side of it where they can be 2 games ahead of the Jaguars if the Jaguars wind up losing, and they could lock this division up in a week or 2.
Tennessee's playing for a lot. Let's see if they can get the win. Let's keep it smooth. We have the Green Bay Packers making their way to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Another Christmas Day game.
Maybe the only good one.
Probably honestly the only good one on Christmas Day. Miami -4 are favorites in this one. Over under here 49.5. Dolphins obviously coming off a brutal loss last week in the cold. Now Rodgers had some comments after the game that didn't sit right with me when he said, "We've won 2 and just about everything we've needed to happen has gone our way. So things are looking up." Now I thought this was a little bit of a cocky statement, considering that they still need the Lions to take on some more losses, Washington to take on more losses, and the Giants to take on some losses. They still got to play the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Lions as well.
Yeah,
right?
Not a schedule.
So they need a lot to go their way. And also, at the current moment, there are 4 spots taken in the NFC. Right? You have
Philly.
You have Philly,
You guys.
Minnesota,
Dallas.
Dallas, and then
49ers.
and no, the 49ers actually aren't yet.
No?
No, yes, and the 49ers,
That's
right?
last week, right?
Right? So essentially 3 of those spots are divisions.
Yeah.
Right? So there's and then you have a non-division, right?
wins-
So you have 2 spots left essentially that are open. Well, theoretically, but one of them belongs to the NFC South winner.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that division picked.
Yeah.
So there's really like one spot available at the moment.
Which Washington has right now. And if they lose, I mean, the Lions are more likely.
Needs everything to go their way.
The Lions in Seattle, I think, are more likely at the end of the season to get in than Washington. But Green Bay, I'll tell you this. Miami, they ain't locked up their playoff spot last week, and they're coming off a division loss.
Oh, my God.
They're going to be at home. Oh, by the way, they're in Miami this week. No worries about the heaters. They're probably going to turn the heaters up on the Packers sideline and make them hot.
They're going to get the AC units out for this game. Not because it's going to be crazy hot, just because they can.
But I got to give a shout out. Jalen Waddle last week, 144 and 1. Some Randy Moss numbers.
It's what he does.
It's like 40 yards a catch at least.
I'm going with the
Almost
Dolphins
50.
in this one. Speaking of them,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, the Waddle 3 for 141 and 1. I think that shows really how electric this offense can be, considering that you saw Tyreek Hill last week saying wasn't his best game. He apologized to the fans, saying it's not going to happen again. He's playing in this game with a little bit of extra juice against Green Bay.
I was gonna say, which is a little scary.
Yeah, Green Bay had a good game against LA. They put together the right game plan, but they also, I think, faced a much easier, much more manageable team. The LA Rams offense is nowhere near the same as the Miami Dolphins offense.
No, yeah, the matchup is definitely it. The going on the road, the fact that the Dolphins have the pressure, the fact that Tua has half of the kind of like he has half of the interceptions that Rodgers has this year. Overall, it's a tale of two stories with their receiving cores. Tua loves it. He's thriving.
Aaron Rodgers
He's doing better. Aaron Rodgers is not loving it. He's not thriving. His production's low. He's a guy who's thrown like 6 picks in 2 years, and he's got 10, in 13 games. But I must say, getting A.J. Dillon involved and Aaron Jones – I didn't think that they even had a flow in the Packers offense. And like you're saying, if they are going to beat Miami, they're going to have to score really early. I also kind of like how Miami's defense stepped up in a lot of close situations against a really good Buffalo team last week. But,
it's not when it mattered.
Yeah, and I got to say, I mean, both of these guys are very similar. They both have around like 64.89 passing percentage. So the fact that I think it's impressive that Tua has kind of Aaron Rodgers percentage numbers right now, pretty high. I just think it's hard not to go with them on the road, especially with the fact that they're favored by 4. I'd even take that.
All right, I like that. Let's move this along into our games of the week. Now, our first one features an NFC East showdown when the Philadelphia Eagles make their way to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Eagles heard this by -5 over on here 46. Now the Eagles might be without Jalen Hurts. It's not confirmed that he's going to be out in this game with a right shoulder sprain. If that's the case, it would be Gardner Minshew filling in for him. Now last week though, the Eagles were electric. A.J. Brown 8 for 188, Devontae Smith 5 for 126. They didn't even need touchdowns for them, for this offense to score.
No, yeah. I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable for the fact that the Eagles are such a complete team, and Dallas has these weeks where they look like they're such a complete team, and I'm kind of hoping it's like that this week because even though both of these teams, I always joke, are literally the two that I envy and hate the most, I respect what they've built this year. Totally, these teams are balling out. 46 over under, I think, is going to be interesting. If Hurts is in, I'd hit it over. If he's not, I'd maybe go a little under. I think Dallas is going to try to run a lot more. They had 37 carries between Pollard and Zeke last week. And as you mentioned, it's really about the Philadelphia passing game as well as kind of their run game with Hurts and Sanders. Sanders already has 1,100 yards, I believe, this year. So if Hurts is out, Gardner Minshew's going to be able to lean on him. But, Dak Prescott, as we've been talking about, has been playing great this year. And, he's played 10 games against the Eagles. He got about 2,410 yards. That's about 241 a game. And then he has about 16-7 touchdown interception ratio, which is great. So he plays well against the Eagles. They're at home. They're favored. With Hurts out, Dallas is just trying to make sure that they stay that 5th seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like the odds for Dallas if Jalen Hurts is out. Obviously, MVP caliber guy, plays great in this offense, et cetera, et cetera. Philly's defense first in the sacks right now, 55 on the season, 55. Cowboys second at 49. Now, fun fact about the Philadelphia Eagles defense, they have a guy named Hassan Reddick. He has 12-plus sacks on the season. Now, he's the first player in NFL history with 11-plus sacks on 3 separate teams in 3 straight years. Did it for the Cardinals, then the Panthers, and has now done it for the Eagles.
Wow.
He's been on a tear, and it's just been very under the radar. So a nice little Hassan Reddick versus Micah Parsons battle. Yeah. One to watch now. I'm going with the Cowboys in this one because I am under the assumption that it's Gardner Minshew in.
Yeah.
I think that still the Eagles could win that with Minshew. I do not think that Minshew is a bad quarterback. And actually, when we saw him in relief last year for Jalen Hurts at times when he was injured, played pretty well in Nick Sirianni's offense. So I do think that there'll be some comfort level here. But I think that because he isn't Hurts, he doesn't have what Hurts has, that great deep ball and that extra little in the run game that can give this Dallas defense an edge and for them to really get after.
Yeah, and Dak has you were talking about the sacks, and Dak's only been sacked 12 times all year, which I thought was very shocking at the sense that he's been playing great, but he's also been upright, which is the most important thing for him. And CD and Noah Brown and Gallup and Schultz, they have such a plethora of weapons, as we like to say. But yeah, I think this is going to be one of the games of the week, no doubt. Even though I hate these teams.
Yeah, I know. All right, now we need to get into the true game of the week. The game of the week, the only game that matters.
Which in the beginning of the season we joked wasn't going to be important, and now it is.
We thought we were going to get to be at this game,
yes,
and be in Minnesota, reporting from there, and sending you guys an episode from Minnesota. But the gods said this game had to be on Christmas Eve, and we can't be away from our families for the holidays because that's the rule, I guess. But we have the New York Giants making their way to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Minnesota's favored in this one, -3.5, over under here at 40. And this is the first time, I think, in our show's history that our two teams have faced.
I think so.
So
this is absolutely our game of the week.
This is a big game of the week. Not only is it our two teams, but Vikings, largest comeback in NFL history last week, secured the NFC North for themselves. And in this game, it is going to be a whiteout. Everyone will be wearing white in Minnesota. They actually changed the color of the end zones for this one.
Oh my gosh.
So they're expecting a lot. They're trying to get the fans going. I don't know if that was in response to the Giants whiteout earlier this season. I was thinking about this the other day.
Teams have been trying to pick it up, and
I know it's been a thing, but to me it was so weird. I was like, of course, I was like, it's so weird that the Vikings decided to do this a few weeks ago, or maybe it was decided earlier, but I only found out later. But I was just a response to Brian Dable.
Yeah, but I'm like now, I mean, it is really unbelievable. Brian Dable, Saquon, what they were kind of game planning. It's kind of like Saquon kind of reminds me of just like a point guard. He just like Daniel Jones, he's kind of like a small forward. He just kind of things go through him, but really, I mean, Saquon's taking direct snaps. This guy's running the offense back there. In my opinion, last week. Or another 15 carries at least when you go down to it. He had 18 for 87 and a touchdown. I mean, he always has a good game against Washington, but he needed to have a good game last week. And he, as he has all season, his goal is to bring the Giants to the playoffs. The Giants right now, after, I should say first, the Vikings now the number 2 seed. So this could be, an eventual playoff if the Giants can keep themselves as the 6th seed, maybe the second round. But the key here is the Giants on the road. They went and they played on the road last week, and they got lucky in, the public's opinion. In my opinion, I think they got a call that was years overdue. No, I kid. But, man, they are scarily 2 playoff teams, man. But
not what we were expecting. Not where I thought we were going to be at this point in the season, talking about our 2 teams.
But I just got to say, I'm nervous because I was kind of hoping, Wan'Dale Robinson and Shepard would be in a game like this, and the Giants – they just hate Kenny Galladay. They can't wait to ship him out. They'd rather not play him.
They're gonna bring in Kenny Galladay for this one game. Be like, you played against Minnesota. And he's gonna go off for 120 yards and let's shut him down.
It was the secret the whole time.
Yeah, but for this one game, we've been keeping him.
The last 2 years, we've just been
Weapon X for this one game against Minnesota.
No, he's not up there. But I gotta say, Isaiah Hodgins, the Giants' new receiver. He's a rookie. Oh, my God. He's been playing out of his mind. He's had touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. He's been great. 2 straight weeks before, and then he had a couple of big plays last week, almost a touchdown. But I got to talk about my guy, Kayvon Thibodeau, for 1 second, if you do not mind. I know,
go for
dude,
it.
This kid, I talk about him so much. I loved him coming out of school. I dreamed that we'd get him, and we did. And I got to tell you, the kid is a stud. I love him. He had 12 tackles. He had 3 tackles for losses, a sack, and he had the full cycle. He had the sack. He had the strip, the recovery, the touchdown. I saw a stat, it took him 2.5 seconds to do all that. So I cannot believe that. You know what I'm saying? To get through that, I think that the Giants have a very special thing in their defense and their pass rush. And if they are going to get to Kirk Cousins, they need to do what Indy did last week in the first half and go after him. Start sending people after him. Send to Cesar Ojulari. Send to Oshan Zimena. Send, Sexy Dexy. Put Sexy Dexy in that backfield. Go get him after the Vikings.
I would sign him up against Ed Ingram if I were you guys. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Is that what you do?
Yeah, Ed Ingram.
Now we're beefing. Now we're beefing about this. What about this? More rushing yards, Dalvin or Saquon Barkley? No bias.
Probably Barkley, only because I think that the Vikings obviously just have so much success in their passing offense that they're not as reliant on Dalvin the way I think that they should be, as we saw last week.
Dalvin gets some receiving yards.
And then I will just say, he did that against Buffalo too, just with the run. So he clearly provides a little bit of juice for this offense. But I think it'll be Barkley because that's, like you're saying, there's no Wan'Dale Robinson, there's no Sterling Shepard. You have to kind of go through him. He's going to be the guy to do it all. So I'm curious to see if Daniel Jones can throw for over 200 yards in this one. This is definitely a favorable defensive matchup to do it against in the Vikings who just bleed offensive passing yards. Yeah. I am going with Minnesota in this one. We're it's unlikely, but theoretically, we can still take the first seed from Philly if they were to drop their next 3 games and we win the next 3 games because we have a loss in the tiebreaker to them.
Yeah.
So we're not. While we have the North and we have the 2nd seed, we don't necessarily. We're not.
And that's what that's how the coaches are thinking too. They're like, we can still get that first seed.
And I think that's how the players are all thinking about it. So I think that there's still a lot more work to be done in Minnesota, and we still have to play the Packers and the Bears on the road. So I think we want to get one more home. We're not going to see our home crowd until the playoffs, right? So let's get one more win in front of them. Let's enjoy this whiteout. Then let's go face the Packers. And let's go face the Bears, and then we get to deal with the playoffs. So let's still fight for this first round. And then honestly, I'm curious to see come week 18, if it's definitely going to Philly. Do you rest players? Then that next question happens. Do you rest JJ? Do you rest Dalvin? Do you rest Darisaw? Do you rest these guys?
Darisaw, it got me a little worried last week because he came in and out of the game, right?
He's good, bro. Don't worry about it.
He's good.
One of your best tackles in all of football right now, according to PFF.
I think that'd be
same with Andrew Thomas. Really quick, no one wants to talk about this.
And
we didn't mention it all season, but 2 of the best left tackles in all of football belong to our teams, according to PFF. We got Andrew Thomas and Christian Darisaw.
And the haters are gonna hate anyway.
Yeah, but that's out there.
Have fun, San Francisco, with your Trent Williams. He's 39. We got our guys.
We're going to enjoy the next 15 years of our guys. You guys just going to enjoy the next 6 according to his contract.
I like what you said about the rest, though. I do want to mention about KJ Osborne last week. Dude.
The GOAT.
10-157-1.
Yeah, I use him all the time in Madden, bro.
He's fast.
He's
He
one of
gets
those
some
guys.
crazy stretch plays. I think that what's great is that they have that receiver depth. That's something you talked about for a long time, and something the Giants do not have. I am gonna pick the Giants because there's
Gotta go
no
with your squad.
way
Gotta go with your squad.
I am not riding with my squad against yours in live action or on the show. But I'll tell you this. The one interesting thing is the Giants defense. They are hands full after Kirk Cousins had 460 yards last week. And you gotta tell people what you told me.
Oh yeah. The funniest thing about Kirk Cousins' game last week. So what was it? He had 406 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. According to ESPN's QBR, it was a 34.6 or 4, which is the third lowest all season in the entire NFL. The only 2 quarterbacks to have a worse QBR in the largest comeback win in NFL history were Davis Mills and Baker Mayfield this season.
Yeah.
Mayfield had a 24.2 and Mills had like a 32.1. Like,
gross.
It just disgusting, but
What
it's
about,
one of those weird ones.
What about the 300 passing yards in the second half as well?
Oh, yeah. First player ever to do that. First player in NFL history to ever throw for 300-plus passing yards in the second half. If you notice the first half stats, I think the Vikings only had something like 115 total yards.
Yeah.
And it was like 75 were in the air, and like literally 2 of those passes, I think, were like 30-yard passes to JJ.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it was like not looking good for them. And then they totally turned around. My question for you is, JJ's creeping up there to possibly hit 2K.
Oh. We said it last week, JJ 2K.
JJ 2K.
Kind of waiting to see.
He's at 16.
They gave him the 18th week.
I know. He's at 16.
Calvin only had 17 weeks.
3 games left. He's at 16-23. I believe the record is 1967.
This man is not from this
right?
planet. He's not from this
planet.
He
has 344 yards left. Do you think he's going to break Calvin Johnson's record for most yards in a single season?
374.
No,
347?
344 yards away. He's like not. He's like, and what's crazy is
it's
like
112 a game. He has 160.
He was 500 yards away last week, and it was you got to get 125, and he puts an output of 123 last week. You think he's gonna break this Calvin Johnson record?
I think he's gonna at least get to number 2. If he
breaks Cooper Kupp's record,
if he doesn't, I think he gets to number 2. How do you not? I mean, on this pace, it's unbelievable. Like. And I again, I'm going to pick the Giants. I love them, but don't listen to me. Go listen to Sean, because the Vikings this week, they're at home. They're looking for a big playoff chance. The Giants need to win this game.
They do.
My point, too.
Wouldn't surprise me. They still got a good defense.
Because we mentioned it, Dallas, 5th seed. 6th seed, Giants. 7th seed, Washington. If Giants lose, not so bad. They need to win 1 to 2 games. If Washington loses, somebody else is going to creep in, like the Lions or Seattle, and I can see them ruining the Giants' good time after a loss like this. But I'm hoping it's a good game, honestly. Christmas Eve, maybe, I'm going to say it, but maybe Saquon has 6 touchdowns.
Don't say that. Also, that was a Christmas Day game. It was like totally different, all right? Like
I know he's near Alvin Kamara.
The rules for Alvin Kamara on that game were totally different. I can't believe you brought that up. That's all the time that we have. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Enjoy these games. A ton of games on Saturday.
Yeah, and even though I made Sean mad there, holiday season, spread some love. And justsaintfootball.com, justsaintfootball on Spotify, and all your articles. Go enjoy this weekend. A whole lot of football, and week 17 coming up next.
Well, it's creeping on us. Happy holidays, everyone.